Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Thoughts Throughout the Week. I'm not sure if that's what this thing is going to be called forever, but that's the name it's got right now, because you can waste a lot of time coming up with names. Basically what this thing is going to be, for anyone new or for anyone who hasn't been here in a while, it's just going to be me recording my thoughts throughout the week as I go on my journey to become a filmmaker without college. It's going to be a mixture of thoughts to do with the film that I'm going to make, and what I'm thinking is the plot for that thing, and what I'm thinking is the feel that I want to put across. And then it's also going to be just things that I'm learning throughout my life as I'm in the real world, a little bit earlier than a lot of people my age. It's pretty interesting to see the parallel between what I'm doing and what they're doing. There's a few other people out there trying to be entrepreneurs and things of that sort, but not very many. The vast majority of people are going to college. From my own self-awareness, I know that that's not the place for me, but it's nerve-wracking, man. Like, it's spooky times indeed, doing this thing, because I'm in life right away, and other people have 4 years. It would be nice to have that time, but I know deep down that if I can really nail it, at least in just one of 4 of those years, then I have a significant head start against the other people who are trying to be filmmakers. But really, when it comes down to it, I haven't been doing as much as I could be doing, and I think a big reason behind that is I don't really have anyone to be doing it with. So my plan is to kind of get out there, get in the world, start paying rent somehow, and find other filmmakers to work with, to ultimately make a team that would just kind of live together and make films and support each other. And maybe there's a guy who lives with us who isn't a filmmaker, who is like a business person, and we make films for them, and they do business for us, and basically we just all kind of work within this ecosystem that is an alternative to college, that gets us out there online and just making stuff. I just want to be making stuff with some homies. So the idea that I have so far for this film is a guy who is addicted to passing out, and it's this thing that he does to escape from his life, and I'm not exactly sure why he does it. I've got a few ideas. I'm also thinking that maybe he'll be a bit of a self-help fanatic, someone who takes cold showers and goes to the gym and takes supplements and meditates every morning and does all this stuff that all these YouTube gurus tell you to do, but never really follows his real path. And I think that that's something that could really be pretty interesting kind of reflection on the times right now. So the reason I'm doing this is because I want to document this process. I want to have a package at the end of this film that really shows my thoughts from beginning to end of this process. I want to live stream being on set. I want to post all my reference for this film online. And I really want to make this thing an interactive process. I want you guys to be invested in this film with me as I create it. Okay, so deep breathing, faints, makes himself pass out, gets up, sits there for fucking ages. There's nothing else in his room. He's somehow trapped in his room. He's there. Trying to focus. There's a poster of Muhammad Ali on his wall. He gets up. He does the same thing again. Breathes into his thumb. Passes out. Hits his head. Oh, fuck. Basically, he makes himself pass out over and over again, locked in this room. And we're finding out how he got locked in the room by reverse telling his story. Somehow he has to face himself because he can't pass out anymore. So I really want this podcast to feel like a scrapbook of ideas. So if I cut from here to another point in time entirely and I'm talking about something totally different, that's how I want it to be. I want it to feel natural and organic and gluten-free, I don't know what it is that's holding me back from an hour and a half, 2 hour film. Probably just intimidated by it. I think 30 minutes is long enough to tell a proper story and for it to not be overwhelming, but
honestly, if it ends up turning into something that's meaningful and that could be longer than that, then, so be it. I'm really not married to any of the ideas that I'm saying on here. I'm just kind of throwing stuff out there and seeing what sticks. And it's been interesting editing the first part of this and kind of hearing thoughts that I had forgotten. And that doesn't happen when you normally think about creating something like this, Sometimes you could think a really cool idea, but you don't get it down in time and the thing just gets forgotten. And that's hopefully not going to happen as long as I record myself enough. And it's just a very strange habit to pick up, because when you're thinking, you don't want to really be saying it out loud, but when things stay inside your head, they bounce around and you overthink stuff. When you say stuff out loud, you feel like you're having a conversation with yourself. You can somewhat do it within your own mind, but the process of talking to yourself allows you to get further along in the conversation. So, I don't know, I think if you don't talk to yourself, you should do that more often. I try to think kind of business-minded with everything, because having creative skill, artistic ability, to the extent that I have that, it doesn't really matter, because if you just have the ability, it doesn't matter if you can't monetize it. So, the ultimate goal with this podcast would be to have people get paid to document their creation, and it could be all kinds of things. Maybe writing a book, or definitely making a song or an album. I think it would be really cool to hear the process of that happening. Maybe I'm making something that's already been made here, but if any of you guys notice that, send it over to me, please, because it's not going to stop me from doing it, but it would be interesting to see if that already exists.
Whenever he passes out, he goes into another universe, which is a different version of himself, and then he goes into all the different universes, and they all keep doing the same thing ultimately, even though they're completely different versions of him. Maybe he uses those different versions of himself to enjoy life, so that in his normal life he can just hustle all the time and he hates it, but he has to make himself pass out. Eventually it all caves in on itself somehow, where they all maybe kill themselves and he wakes up as someone totally different. What I'm thinking is that he'll use passing out as an escape, and what ends up happening is that he ends up escaping to these other dimensions where he is existing as another version of himself that has a life that is desirable to him, and one that is worth living his boring life for, so that he can get to this place. So this might end up cutting out the self-help stuff. Self-help was actually my original title, but I think it was kind of locking me into that characteristic where, he was obsessed with all these things online. Maybe that's something for another film. Maybe that's another version of his character. Maybe I don't know if I'm going to use the self-help stuff, but maybe I will. It's still an idea that I'm going to keep at the front of my mind. The kind of films that I really love are like Charlie Kaufman films. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the stuff that he's written, but his scripts are pretty insane. He's got a film called Being John Malkovich, which is literally a film about a guy who finds a portal in his office that he goes through, and when he comes out the other side, he teleports into John Malkovich's body. So it's stuff like that I really love, that pushes the boundaries of what a film can be, and kind of shows people that films can be about anything. Swiss Army Man is also a film that does that, and I think that is one of my all-time favorite films for the same reason, really, because it's just weird. Physics don't exist, but it's a real journey, and that's another example of a film and kind of a vibe too that I really want to put across into the work that I'm making. So Larry Lost is a name that I'm kind of going with. I wanted to title the film something that isn't like all the other short film names out there, like Translation or Obsidian. I think Larry Lost gives a feeling of fun. It gives a feeling of something unexpected and something that really has an identity, you know? So when he starts passing out, he just thinks he's going into these dream worlds where he can do really whatever he wants. But really what's happening is he's traveling to another dimension, another universe, where he's being a different version of himself. And I will use people who look somewhat similar to the main character to do this, which actually means that I could be one of these dimensions and I could get a little bit of acting experience without, you know, he could be a British version of himself. Now, it would need to get to a point where he knows that he is ruining the lives of these people by passing out and taking control of their body and doing these things. And once Larry realizes that these are real dimensions that he's crossing into, a conflict arises where he starts to question whether or not it's worth it to go to these places and to have fun experiences if it's going to ruin the lives of these other real people. Now, this whole thing is getting a lot more crazy than I expected, but I want to have fun when I make films. I want to kind of push the boundaries. I don't want to just make another student film about depression and suicide and PTSD and a dream within a dream. So to sum this whole thing up, Larry Lost is the working title that I have right now. It's about a guy, Larry, who is addicted to passing out. When he passes out, he goes to other dimensions that he thinks are dreams so that he can live a fulfilling life within his mind, if not in the real world, because he's gotten a rough deal in the real world and he blames the world for making that happen to him. So he jumps into these other realities to live the life that he wants to live. Eventually, he realizes that these realities are more real than he anticipated and that he's actually jumping into other people's lives in other universes. And I don't know where it's going to go from there, but I think it's a pretty okay starting concept, and it's doable because I don't have to make the dreamscapes super trippy and crazy, because if they're just other dimensions, then they could just be other parts of the world. And, you know, ultimately, what would be awesome is if I could go to England and record stuff in England, record stuff in different parts of California that look very different, and really make it feel like this guy is teleporting all over the world, and make this thing feel big and grand, even though the filming techniques are going to be somewhat simple due to limited budget. I hope you guys like that concept. Let me know what you think. I'm going to be honest, I don't know if there are any comments on the podcasting apps that I'm going to be publishing this to. So if you want to get your thoughts across to me, head over to my YouTube channel at Lorcan McSharp, and it's going to be uploaded there too, and you can just drop a comment below, and I am open to literally anything. If you have an awesome plot point idea, let me know, and I will definitely put you as a helper of the story in the credits. Let me know if you think there's any gaps in this thing. Let me know if you think it's a little bit cliche or whatever. Thank you to everybody for listening. I hope that you like this idea, and I hope that you carry on listening. And I don't know when you're going to listen. They're going to be all different lengths. I might die. Maybe I'll die. Just imagine that it was pretty cool. Okay? I love you.